Welcome to our Kijiji, where Kijiji stands for Village in Swahili. I am Misha of Makai'sMom.com, and I am so happy to be in a place that is a Black-owned studio, The Vault, where we are hosting the first podcast of Kijiji. We're in a studio professionally, and I have 3 colleagues here ready to share some things, all things Black. You know how we do, all things Black. So I'm going to go first with the introduction. As I said, I'm Misha of Makai'sMom.com. I am a single mom of a teenager who is also a college student. Just because I'm single doesn't mean that I don't co-parent. He does have his father in his life, and we're active co-parents. So I share things that are transparent to Black parenting, specifically Black male parenting, and intergenerational conversations in reference to things that my parents did and grandparents did and told us what to do and not to do. I don't necessarily do that with him, and he will tell me, Mom, that's not it. So we're going to get more into that parenting aspect and more into the Black life with the rest of our conversation, and I'm going to pass it to my partners here.
All right. Well, I am Amber. I am married with 3 kids, 2 bonus, 1 actually going off to college in the fall, a rising junior and a rising first grader. I am originally from Washington, D.C. I moved here in May of 2015 to take a new job and to get closer to my bonus children that are from my husband's prior relationship. I am a in-house attorney, and so during this podcast and all of our different episodes, I'll probably go between very professional talk and slang, because that's just what I do. And I am happy to be here and excited to embark on this new journey with my girls.
I'm Sharon. I am a mom as well of 5 children. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter who takes care of a parent, and I work. And all that is hard to balance. I'm an executive director of a small nonprofit in Winston-Salem. I'm also from D.C., like Amber, and cannot let that go. I still have my 202 area code on my cell phone. So I'm just glad to be here and be a part of this group.
Hello, I am Kelly Easton, and I am divorced, mother with 2 children, 2 beautiful Black babies. I'm originally from Winston-Salem. I moved away in '99 to Baltimore, so I explored the entire DMV area. I recently moved back in 2016. And I'm an entrepreneur, and I am the co-founder of a local nonprofit, and we are focused on achieving liberation for Black people.
All right. Well, I guess I'm up again to talk about how the podcast came about. And really, Misha is, I would say, a convener of people. She brings people together. She brought us together, and we were having lunches and conversations that I felt like, we could offer this to a larger group of people. It's entertaining. It's funny. But also, I think it centers Black women and Black women's perspectives, which I like. And it was a safe space. I think that's something we've all said. We are different. We have a lot of similarities. We have a lot of differences, but we kind of lean into curiosity and not judgment. I think that's the best thing about this group. So I thought we just had something to offer to other people and elevate the culture. So
sometimes we do judge.
But not each other.
Not harshly.
Not harshly.
No, now we do judge.
It might be each other too, but it's in a loving, caring way. And I think can check each other.
Well, we see. Well, then we see who's judging. I am leaning into curiosity. They are judging.
Curiosity, that's the DMV
it's
version
all of the
for
above.
Judging and shade.
and that's why it's complicated.
It is complicated.
Listen, I am leaning into curiosity.
Let me say this. This did come together via lunch. What was very complicated was getting these 3 together for lunch. Ironically, we learned that Sharon and Amber went to the same school.
Oh, we
yeah,
did.
that's right.
Didn't know.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then we were like, yeah, let's keep this going. And it got harder because they're all very busy and their schedules got harder. And to get here, if y'all only knew, God is good all the time. We're here. So now we're going to talk about what is complicated.
So today's topic, I don't know. We've talked about a lot of things, and I think this is one of the more complicated ones of the ones we've talked about. But on the surface, it seems kind of, yeah. But when you get into it, there are layers. So it is Bonnets, Respectability, Politics, and Anti-Blackness. And the way that we got there was it was going around on social media, a post about a dentist office. I think it was maybe a black woman dentist.
It was.
And she basically was denying service to people who wore bonnets and maybe some other things.
Pajamas, slippers.
I don't know if do-rags was in there, but we're going to throw it in there just so we can get Misha's reaction to that. But so that was going around. And then, everybody was saying how they feel. And one woman was like, well, why do we equate bonnets and do-rags and wearing pajamas with being black? Why do we equate uncouth things with being black? And so that just, jumped off in our text chat. And now we're here to talk about it with y'all.
Yes. So we do have a definition. And this is all under the umbrella of respectability politics. So our definition, the definition that we found online and we agreed with is respectability politics is a strategy in which members of a marginalized community will consciously abandon controversial aspects of their cultural or political identity as a method of assimilating, achieving social mobility, and gaining the respect of their host culture. So and so I went a bit further, and the term actually was deemed by Dr. Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham. She's an author and professor. And so she wrote a book called Righteous Discontent, The Women's Movement and the Black Baptist Church. And this was during the period of 1880 and 1920. And so in the book, she talks about the politics of respectability. That was the original term. And essentially, it was all about Black people being able to develop pride within themselves, and it was really a method of really protecting themselves because they were they were deemed as inferior, and especially compared to white women, and so it was. So it's like, what do we need to do in order to ensure that we feel good about ourselves? So the origin of it actually was more of a self-preservation. And the one thing that I did appreciate about the history is that it wasn't seen at that time when they were using this strategy, when they were utilizing this strategy. It was more about women being proud of their work, being proud of their work and using their money in a sensible way. So this was during the Victorian period. So it's like, rather than furnish your homes with, all this expensive stuff, saving up your money, trying to make it look a certain way, then, do the respectable thing. Have a good library with good books, make sure you have clean walls and nice carpets or rugs. And so that was actually the origin of it. And so we know that over the years that has evolved, and now protecting ourselves a little bit is a bit different. So now protecting yourself is all about behavior, trying to be respectable so the police won't, mistreat you, for example. So yeah, what are y'all thoughts about that?
A lot. Like, it's complicated.
I know.
So when we were talking about this in the text thread, I think I was probably the first one to respond, right? And just thinking about bonnets, right? And so it's complicated for me because I have mixed feelings about it. For me and mine, I am definitely one to say we are not leaving the house in a bonnet. And we're not wearing pajamas out of the house unless it's pajama day at school or something.
Which I don't like.
You don't like pajamas at all, right? So they are reserved for the house.
Yes.
I do not extend that same logic, though, to loungewear. I think there are lines to that. But when I think about bonnets, and I'm thinking about sleep caps, not head wraps, which I think are totally appropriate to wear outside. I can acknowledge that that is me. That's my decision. That's what I want for me and my family. I did not agree with the Black dentist saying she was not going to service folks in that attire because I don't understand how that matters. It has nothing to do with you making sure my dental health is where it needs to be. I do think ultimately we have to mind our business. And if you decide that you want to wear a bonnet out the house, that is your prerogative. It has nothing to do with me. I do not think that A. Sharon wearing a bonnet out of house reflects on all of Black women, right? Which is another issue, and maybe that's another topic for another day, right? But so that was my response. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I cannot tell you what you should and should not do.
Leave people alone.
Yeah.
Leave people alone. The reason I don't agree with Pajama Day, I totally despised it. My son has always been off the chart with his growth. He's always been tall and big, seen older than what he was, and that really affected him his middle school years. And so I was like, not only are you going to be judged, I'm going to be judged, and that's something extra. I don't mind being judged. I don't mind speaking up, advocating. That's something extra. I was already having to advocate for his behavior, and because he was seen as older, he was expected to behave more mature than he was versus being 8 or 9 years old. So that's the thing with Pajama Day. And then sometimes what I was noticing was the kids were getting out of bed in the pajamas and coming to school in the pajamas. That's different than a fresh pair that you wear to school, because that comes with other things. That comes with bullying. If you smell or if they're dingy, or my pajamas are not fit for leaving the house. Just to be clear, they're not fit. So it comes with just added stuff that Black kids and Black people don't need. Now, in reference to the business, the other part that was shared was a message where a young lady was talking about it, saying, it's her business, and it's a sign of depression if you wear it. And my thing is this: if it is a sign of depression, why would you add more pressure on a person to not be serviced unless you take it off? And most people, I don't think, would go to the dentist for a cleaning in a bonnet. They're probably going because they have a toothache or some work that needs to be done. So in that type of pain, sometimes you don't want to get dressed for a number of reasons. And so, yeah, it's just added pressure on what we have to show up as Black people, particularly Black women.
Yeah, I think that's my challenge with it all, because what I've learned throughout the years, like Kelly, you mentioned about liberation. And so as I've focused on like what it means to be free for Black people, or for me, there has been an evolution to my thoughts and how much I felt like that's people's business and that has nothing to do with me. So I used to probably feel differently than I do now, but I do think it's their business. But also, I think when these things come out, it's like targeting Black people and Black women. Like, we're not talking about other people looking crazy when they come out the house or wearing clothes that look like pajamas. They may be very expensive, but they look like pajamas. And I'm not going to name people or clothing lines, but you probably can pick up what I'm putting down because everybody always names them. But we're not saying anything about that. So I feel like this conversation about bonnets, it targets Black women in a way that I think is what I would like the culture to move away from. And, my children go to a school where on the announcements. It is said, along with the dress code, and I know you're not going to have on bonnets or do-rags, and definitely not a second do-rag. That is targeting Black children, because we know who wears that, but we're not talking about midriffs and booty shorts, which might be a way that white girls would break a dress code or whatever. So that's my issue, and I think that's the part that we always have to analyze, because we all have personal opinions. And like Amber said, I don't necessarily want my daughters to go out in a bonnet, but if they did, if they chose to do that, then that's what they choose to do. Misha knows my kids, and I kind of let them do what they want to do as it comes, as it relates to wardrobe. But I don't like the targeting of people when we're in kind of pop culture conversations. So that's why I just take a stand of that's people's business. And if they want to wear a bonnet, let them wear a bonnet. And there's nothing wrong with wearing a bonnet.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you were saying. Well, what both of you are saying. Well, I think all of us agree with the fact that wearing a bonnet has nothing to do with our inherent value. And however, when people show up with bonnets on, then they are automatically devalued. And I think for Black people that are calling it out, then it is anti-Blackness. And certainly they feel as though well, you're representing me. And, now that you're wearing this bonnet, I'm embarrassed by it. And that's a personal problem. Mm-hmm. So really who's the mental health issue, who does it really fall on, And so I just think that to me, all of this, just the whole notion of there's a certain way of being that is more proper than another way of being, is all a part of white supremacy culture, And so it's just, there has to be a hierarchy of what is good over what is bad. And I just feel like the bonnets is just another way to classify, things that are associated with Black women as something negative. And for people that have not dealt with that internally, then I do feel, that they feel violated by the whole vision of a bonnet. And, that's the part that really bothers me, and especially with our young girls.
Two things though, because we're talking about it being the bonnet wearer's business. This conversation started based off the dentist.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Her business. And so that's one thing. Does she not have the right to distinguish who she's going to service? And are we upset by that because it is targeting Black women? The other part, you've seen businesses that say no service without a shirt or shoes. Mm-hmm. Is this different than that?
You know what? I just have to jump in and say, because I appreciate, and I'm so glad that you brought up white supremacy culture, because I think the thing for me is we have to recognize when we're operating out of some kind of internalized oppression and effects of white supremacy culture, because it impacts all of us. Yes. And it impacts how we see things and how we make decisions. And that takes intentional kind of analyzing every thought that we have, because our filter has been shaped by a culture that values whiteness. And so that's the thing for me. If we can analyze a thing and think about it and come out on the other side and say, oh no, this has not at all been impacted by, whiteness, then fine. But I do think it's her business and she can do what she wants. But I think that as Black people, when we do that to each other, we need to examine that and where that's coming from. And also to what you're saying about the roots of the politics of respectability. I think that's another thing. We have to decide, how long does this stuff serve us?
Yes.
It's got to evolve.
Yeah. Did it ever serve us?
We can't, did it ever serve us? And if the point is to keep us safe, which means, safe for white people,
right?
That is still an issue and a concern. Right. But does the way that we do that, does that need to evolve? It's 2023.
Yeah. But what about trying to detach this from white supremacy? Maybe we can, maybe we cannot, right? So when I think about bonnets, AKA sleep caps, the intended purpose is to wear it around the house, while sleeping to protect your hair, whether that is from breakage, whether that is from it tangling up, whether that is to preserve your hairstyle. I feel like I'm able to say, and we know that this is a Black woman thing, right? I don't think I've ever seen a white woman walk around with a bonnet unless we're talking about cultural appropriation, which is another
coming.
topic for
They
another
already
day.
have
I was about to say, yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
But if I'm focused on intended purpose, this is for the home. That's where I'm coming from with the bonnets, and I recognizing also that, again, this is a Black woman thing, but now I put it in the category of lingerie, which is for the bedroom, right? Now, if you're walking around in lingerie or lingerie-like attire, Black, white, Indian, Hispanic, I'm thinking something, right? And so I do feel like we have a tendency, and it's hard because of the world that we live in today. Everything ends up being Black and white. White supremacy, it's because I'm Black. But is it really that? When for some, yes. And maybe it's just me.
But what's the root of it though? So because wasn't it Monique that
she was one, yes.
So, but to me, that is where the conversation began. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I think it's a matter of like what is considered to be acceptable, socially, in terms of how one, shows up. So is that more of a society thing? That's one thing. But I feel that this conversation though with bonnets though.
I think her argument is what linked it to respectability politics, because one thing she was saying was, where is your pride in representation? Where is your pride in yourself? Like, when did we lose that to want to come out of the house with a bonnet and pajamas on? And in her case, she was talking about traveling because she saw a group of Black women in bonnets in the Atlanta airport, I believe. And so I see and I agree with how that argument that she made has a direct linkage to respectability politics. And so I'm not necessarily making that argument. I understand her argument. I probably felt when she said it, I did not necessarily take issue with what she said, but I could also see why people did take issue with it. Which also got me to, have we gotten to a point where people just don't like anyone saying anything to them?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I feel like the younger generation are really pushing the idea of like, I define who I am, and I'm not going to allow anyone else. So I think that, I do feel that there's a pushback, to that. But I do think that all of that, in my opinion, really goes back to the white supremacy culture, because it's not a matter of you could just show up, like just the fact that you were born and you are great. It is a matter of like how you show up, how you speak, what school do you go to, what church did you go to, what's your family's, like all of these things matter, and they're all, we use them as ways to define, like who someone is. And that's the problem. So I think it's a prevailing cultural issue.
Didn't we also talk about, or somebody mentioned how some kids are using bonnets to cover up their hair?
Yes. And that's that's the part that really, that's my greatest concern, especially, I have heard educators, and even what you're just, the example that you gave, and I know they feel some kind of way. And this is a thing in terms, speaking of education, like this is a big issue because, just historically, Black educators felt that they needed to protect children. So during segregation, children were automatically protected. You didn't really have to go out your way. You took care of the children in that building. And now, as children are showing up and in these integrated classrooms, well, all of them are not even integrated, but that's a whole nother conversation. But as they're showing up and Black educators still feel very protective, then I do feel that they're applying that pressure of, no, you need to show up like this so you are not mistreated. I do think that to them, it's still a form of protection of like, well, we want you to just show up looking normal, so you can just fit in, assimilate, so you won't be targeted, and because I too, when I see this, I feel some kind of way. And but they don't ask the question of, well, why are you wearing that bonnet? And then going back to the history, it was very interesting because, one of the Mary, she's an educator, Mary Church. She's a Black educator. She was the first Black woman to graduate from college, and during her times, and even like with, I do belong to a sorority. It was founded in 1908. But during those times, it was a matter of, if you would see someone with a bonnet, I mean, they didn't have bonnets, but, just take that and put it whatever was going on back in that day. Instead of feeling embarrassed by it, then it's like, well, what can we do to help you? So it was a matter of just going back to the roots, and it's like we have to uplift all of us, and that's where I feel like the communal aspect of it, of, well, if I'm embarrassed because you're showing up like this, but rather than targeting and making someone feel, bad about it, then, if anything, let's go back to the roots and say, okay, you know what, like you feel some kind of way about your hair, like how can I help you with that? Like what happened to that? That's a helpful means, And
that's kind of where I stand, because Sharon and I have experienced me based off of Kelly's invitation to trauma resilience training, and also we've done warrior healer builder training, which I call the Black version, where it strictly deals with Black social emotional wellness. And part of the trauma resilience training that I implement on a daily basis, and I try to as much as possible, is shifting things from what's wrong with you to what happened to you, and then what's happening. And I think when I start thinking about, instead of saying, well, why are you acting like that, or what's wrong with you, versus saying, I wonder what happened. Why are you doing this? I think that shifts our mindset to be more of, well, how can I help?
Right.
Because it's more to it.
Yeah.
And we've experienced something, recently with another organization that we deal with, where we heard one thing, but one of the other people mentioned it's more than that. We're hearing that, but it's more than that. And when we start talking about what's more and getting to the root causes of things, I think that shifts the entire culture to be more loving, because we're missing that piece. Yeah. We're very judgy.
Yeah. We are. But I mean, even if we get back to Monique, right? Because she said, and I believe that she was actually trying to come from a good place. And I don't think she was trying to come from a place of judgment. And I think she thought that in delivering that message, she was trying to help them, and not just judge them, right? Maybe she didn't give examples, right? And so maybe that's the part that was missing. So along with her saying, babies, let's stop wearing bonnets and pajamas in the airport, she could have said, hey, we have really cute turbans now that you can wear to protect your hair. That's or have you seen these satin-lined head wraps that you can use to protect your hair? And look at this really cute loungewear from Fenty that you can wear and be comfortable on your flight. Keep your neck pillows, keep your blankets. And while we're trying to fight against all that is going on to be free and liberated, we're not there yet, right? And accepting where we are, because when they see you, and not just whites, right? But when everybody else sees you, they are judging you, and they are putting you in this box. And yes, they may automatically discriminate against you just because you're Black, but now you've given them even more reason to do whatever it is that they feel like they might do. Like for me, you know, when I'm traveling, I'm trying to get an upgrade to first class. So, you know,
I'm trying to get Makai's stepdaddy.
So, you know, I like to be cute and comfy. And yes, I have put my bonnet or scarf on the plane. I put it in my carry-on when I'm taking these long flights and I know I'm going to sleep and I want to protect my hair because I just got it done.
You put on your bonnet?
I do, girl, right before I go to sleep. And I wrap it up. I put my bonnet on. I go to sleep. I get my good little nap. And when I wake up and I'm about to get off the plane, I take it off and I put it back in my bag. Yeah. So I don't have an issue with bonnets. And I obviously understand the practical use this for, but I just think there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that you put your bonnet on the plane.
Me too.
Yeah. Overnight flights, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
It's appropriate.
Yeah. I just think, like what Monique was saying, and I like Monique, and when she said it, like you, I understand both sides, and I do understand everybody doesn't like Monique, so don't judge me for that.
She's
but I do like Monique. But I just felt like sometimes when we are, you know, talking to the babies, that's some unresolved issue that we have not dealt with and that we are putting on them. And I've seen that just from my mom's generation, people putting on us. It's like, that don't got nothing to do with me. Monique, if you don't want to wear your bonnet out, or if you think, because she said something about, you know, deserve that title of queen. So when somebody talks to you, they can say, hey, queen. Well, why they can't say that? Because I got a bonnet on.
But is it, though?
And
is it
so
unresolved?
Well, I mean, I think it is leftover residual from what the generation before her told them. But the notion that you were undeserving to be called queen because you have on a bonnet, to me is respectability politics rooted in white supremacy, and is not helpful or coming from a place but I don't think she knows that. And so that's why I'm saying it's like unexamined things. I think she thinks I'm just helping these babies out because they don't need to be out here looking like this.
But minus that part, what if she actually saw firsthand the mistreatment of them? And she's assuming it's based on the fact that they have.
Then she should confront the person that's mistreating
And maybe
them.
She did, but can't you confront both? Right.
But they didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I think you can have a conversation with people. And then that's the other thing for me is where you choose to have the conversation when you want to help people because you love people so much. And I don't know if the internet's
I think she mentioned that she couldn't tap everybody because it was so many of them.
And I mean, you know, maybe we need some forums where black people are just talking to black people. I don't know. But sometimes, like this, Misha, you're right. But sometimes we give other people ammunition to hurt us. And that is unnecessary. But I just think that, you know, she can't tap everybody. She can't tell everybody. But if she sees a lot of people doing it, maybe it's a trend and she should hop on it.
Don't hop on it.
Yes. Yeah, it's a both and I'm going to lean with Esharon on that one because I do feel that if you want to protect, you know, if you want to protect someone, then it's just going back like policing women and what they wear, you know? So it's just like, well, because I'm wearing a fitted skirt, does that mean that now I should be raped, or should we talk to the rapist? Like racism is a form of abuse, you know? And so are we putting that much pressure on the abusers, on the oppressors, or are we just wanting, you know, we're investing too much energy and time saying, you know, don't wear this so you won't get mistreated. So I do agree. It's like, where are we having the conversation, and and who's the audience and what are we saying? So that's not, we're not trying to protect, you know, if we're there's a better way to protect, you know, and that's going to the, you know, the person who's creating the harm.
And protection has to evolve because sometimes protection is like smothering.
You
know, I mean,
that's good.
And sometimes it's misplaced. Sometimes people don't need to be protected.
I think these conversations are still very new because when we're watching, I know here a local newscaster, and I've seen it across social media where they are coming out saying they are free to wear their natural hair or to wear braids on air. Like, what?
Yeah.
Thank you for
yeah.
that, because bonnets, it's a slippery slope.
It is.
It used to be.
Yeah.
It could be anything that society decides, and this is what I want to say to what you were saying about, is it, linked to white supremacy, or is it just, society and that's how it is, and the lingerie? But somebody decides these rules and norms for us. Because if we lived in another country, lingerie might be not seen as so jarring or inappropriate. But even like places in the Caribbean, there's just a different level of freeness with showing your body. But it may not be lingerie, but it's covering the same thing that the lingerie would
Carnival.
cover.
Right. Carnival, yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I just think that
And that's all
it's
sizes.
yes.
All sizes. Yes.
And it's a slippery slope, because it used to be natural hair when we grew up.
It's still natural hair.
It
Cool.
still
And
is.
I
It
just,
still
and I've
is.
always,
Right.
I had natural hair, and that was a struggle, So it's bonnets right now. It was maybe locks or braids or cornrows for
Yep.
men. So that's the thing. It's like, who is creating all this for us and deciding? And I am a black and white person, and kind of like I don't have a lot of gray. So it's like all or nothing for me. So I'm like, well, just throw it all out. Like, get all of it.
Yep.
So
I'm
I
a gray.
own that.
I live
own
in the
that.
gray.
You're a gray?
I am
Because
gray.
attorneys-
I am. It
attorneys
is not
have to
all black and white.
She's an attorney.
I'm
So
totally
she kinda
gray.
has to-
Attorneys have to live in the gray.
Yes. Yeah. I'm all in too, I think.
I think I can be gray. However, I think I'm pushed more towards gray because I like to burn stuff down. And Kelly
you
was
do.
like, yeah, we can't.
We can.
And
So
I'm
I
like,
might be a
why
little
not?
more gray too. But
Yeah, you might,
ultimately-
because I like to burn stuff down.
Yeah.
I like to burn it down. If it ain't working, why are we trying to keep repairing? Like, burn it.
But we have to. Oh gosh, I don't know if this is going to another topic, but the
I
whole
think it
burn
is.
down. I mean, sometimes it does feel like that's the only way out is to burn it down. But my thing is, you have to have architects. Like, who's going to build it? Because once it get burned down, then we're going to be the ones who are going to get the brunt
And
of
be
it.
homeless.
Yeah, and everything
said that.
else. And so it is a matter of let's burn down and build. And it's better when the people who are burning it down are working with the builders. So, and that's a whole, and speak,
Yeah,
and
that's
to
a whole
tie
nother
that back to respectability politics, I think on the other end of that too, though, and I consider myself a blackity black person, but there are people who are, who will just who have huge judgments against someone like an Amber and living in that gray, and it's just like, well, you're not black enough, and so to rebel against the system and to rebel against society, then it's like they go all the way over and then they begin to, judge,
Isolate.
everyone else. So it's just like, black is beautiful. Black is black. It's an inherently great thing. It just by virtue, it's excellent, and so if we could just accept that, then I feel that we will do away with respectability politics altogether.
So something that recently came up, and this is a transparent podcast. Right before we came on, I was talking to a realtor, and she was FaceTiming me, showing me a space, because we're talking about affordable housing, particularly in this city and county. And I didn't share where I work. However, I do work hard. I just shared this earlier this morning that it was probably 4 years ago where I was finally able to come up for air to not live truly paycheck to paycheck. Now I'm paycheck and a half a paycheck. And rent is high. This is my first time living in an apartment complex where I have somebody over my head. And this is probably going to take a turn, so I don't know if we'll edit this later. But I've talked to the people because I need to know, are these kids above my head? Are these dogs above my head? And I want the neighbors above me to pick a time when they're going to be humping. Like, can y'all do it in the morning or at night? Not both. Not while I'm on the phone.
Well, you also work from home.
I work from home. And so when I told the office, I was like, what's going on? Like, well, we can't share if it's kids or dogs because that's, a violation. I said, well, I've talked to y'all before, so I took the broom to the ceiling. Please don't do that because it's. I'm like, well, y'all not doing anything, and I need. So when I yell, like, when are you? Can you hurry up? How long is this gonna take? Can you hurry up and come? And I mean, see you.
Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on.
I'm going somewhere. Stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me. And then I hear
Sex.
Then I hear the bed go faster because he's trying to brush.
Oh no!
But then
They're listening to you.
okay.
Come on, y'all.
So let me finish. So then this goes into the point of that same person. I'm going downstairs after my hard-earned job, going to community meetings, and I go downstairs, and I go to the right. He's in his car, smoking weed. I look to the left. There's a whole braiding salon going on in the grass. Rent is high. Like, we talk about respectability politics. Do I say, y'all can't do that because it's hot? Like, we should be doing that over here because rent is high, or should we not be doing that at all?
So are you paying to get away from the people smoking weed and
it's
doing
time
braids?
to go. But then that comes into question,
So
like,
that is-
should I not be okay? Because these my people.
No, you have the right to live how you want to live. And you are in,
And so do they.
and so do they. And that's what I was about to say. And you are living in an area with, all types of people with all types of backgrounds. So see that, and I think that's the thing with respectability politics. And I feel that that's what happens. We will want to live a certain way. And some people took it to the extreme and was just like, okay, I'm just going to move away from Black people altogether, because I don't want to deal with any of that, and then they choose white neighborhoods. Actually, and this is interesting because I feel like, and I don't know, here, we're local, right? This is a hyper local thing. Yeah. So I feel like in Winston-Salem, if you wanted to be around Black people, but you didn't want to be around weed and people doing hair outside of their homes, where would you move? See, in the DMV, there's a lot of different communities.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the issue? So, see, this is where it just gets complicated. So, what is it about him smoking weed?
Remember
and her
HY
doing
said
hair?
she doesn't judge or shade. That was the shade or judge Tom right there.
Yeah, you do. You
did.
did bring some shade.
That was not
You're a
curiosity.
subtle clutch my pearls.
It was not curiosity.
Maybe.
But what's the issue? What's the issue with just
Weed.
braiding your hair, somebody's hair? And I mean,
That's what.
was there a
Do
cause?
that in the house.
But what if they just wanted to enjoy
Is
some
it
fresh
because,
hair?
like, when you say
Yeah, I
rent
have a
is
problem.
high, are you saying because I'm paying a lot to live here, I don't want to
Yes.
see that? Or are you saying
I
like,
don't want to be shocked when I'm coming out the door.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Does it get down to safety? But why do you
Wait,
think
did
your
you say
safety is in
shocked?
question?
No,
did.
not shocked.
Oh, no,
Shocked.
shocked.
Oh, shocked.
Okay, shocked.
SHOCKED.
Okay, clarification. Had to clarify
okay.
that.
I was like, yeah,
why are the hair braided people going to shoot you?
I knew
To that
shocked.
point, though, to that point,
I knew
the
shocked.
hair braiding side is the side where my office is. So in the morning, I don't know if these people aren't allowed to be in their apartment because they may live with somebody and they may say, when I go to work, y'all got to leave. But there's a rap concert in the morning.
Listen, when I went
Then
to
they argue.
Africa, people are braiding hair
Everywhere.
outside
Yes.
in the compound. Music is happening.
That's how we live.
Tea is being drank or drunk. Smoke is happening. I mean, we live communally. As you know,
Then invite me.
well, listen, y'all. Invite Misha
so you
to
just
the
want to be
hair braiding.
invited. Okay, I got you.
If you know who she's talking about,
If it is you.
I
should we
think with
drop
the-
your address? in
No.
So I think I don't care about the
Joking.
braiding hair thing. And honestly, I feel like it is a beautiful part of our culture. And especially, we consider a lot of the art. If you go to any major Black art show, then you're going to find some type of painting of a woman doing a little girl's hair on a stoop, or on their porch. Like, I just think that, and especially like a Southern thing, when I think of it, like, I don't know. I have a different type of feeling about it. I think if weed, and especially if it's illegal, and which it is in the state of North Carolina to smoke it, isn't it? Or did they? I don't know. Is it bad?
I think it is.
Okay,
illegal.
so
Well, Amber is
Right.
yeah.
I don't know. I think. It's
I
illegal.
get what
It's
y'all
illegal.
saying, because this leads into.
That's
I remember
different.
a student coming to WSSU. For those who don't know, I am a Ram. Some days, and a student left because girls were braiding in the outside the dorm room, and they weren't used to that, and so they ended up leaving. I think
you're not used to seeing.
it was a guy. It was a guy. If you grow up in a white high school, I mean.
So I mean, listen. I
And
think
if it's a parent who feels like me
Yeah.
and wants to protect their kid from something, they wouldn't have seen stuff like that.
well, it's ranges. It's all like this spectrum, this slippery slope, right? And I guess we could put the bonnets and stuff aside for now, but we are so beautiful, right? And I think we add so much flavor to this world,
Yes.
right? And so it's things like if you want to braid somebody's hair on the grass and y'all chilling, it's all good. Girl, have at it. Actually, can I get an appointment?
I was about to say, I love it. Yeah.
When are you next available? If you're smoking weed in your car, you're minding your business, there's nothing else going on, I don't even see nothing. And I'm okay with that. But like
This is the DC talk.
this is the DC talking. This is Amber.
I'm just saying, like, all these things are common.
Yeah,
I feel like.
I'm okay with that. But when
So
we
are
get
y'all okay
to,
with that in y'all neighborhood?
I would be fine with that.
Yes, I might
As
bring
long
my
as you
daughter's
are
hair
not
outside
I'm
today.
fine. As long as you're not hurting anyone, I don't have to be worried about safety. I'm okay. Now, when we start talking about property values, if I'm trying to sell my home, if you're doing this and I can't get nobody to buy my house, then we got to talk about it. I might say, hey, I'm trying to sell. When you see the cars riding by, maybe you can like just go in the backyard for a second. But otherwise we're good. Right?
they're not gonna do that.
I know it's a range though. It's a range, but
Yeah.
I feel you, but I tend to not worry too much about stuff like that, so long as nobody is being harmed.
Or nobody gonna call the police.
Yeah,
That's my thing
yeah.
with the weed is that if somebody sees it and they're calling the police, I think I'm gonna have my main issue is I don't want you getting arrested so then that's when the respectability piece come in terms of protection, I guess. I don't want anything bad to happen because you're out here minding your business, but now you've like literally given a reason for someone to call the police because and
you're making the block hot. Yeah, I would probably.
Yeah, the block is hot.
Illegal
Thank you.
reason,
That
though.
is it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is very hot.
Yeah.
So that's my issue.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh, what you say, Ashron?
No, I was just saying, I mean, it's illegal. So with the respectability politics, your protection is warranted. I mean, it's illegal.
Yes.
It's not like a bonnet or a hoodie or,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
like you can get arrested for this.
Yes.
And you bringing the police over here.
Yes. I just think that all those things culturally, that's what we did here outside. So to your point, I think that, I think it is when people see that and they have a problem, then that is more of a internalized thing. So
We're gonna wrap up. However, I want to quickly mention do-rags because we did not we didn't go into conversation about that.
So are they the same or different than bonnets?
I think they're different.
I mean, if he's fine, I don't know. I don't really know if I
is
ever
it-
seen.
Is it okay if it hangs or if it's tied?
I was about to say most men. I don't know if I think it's sexy though. Do y'all think they're sexy? So to me,
Sometimes it's very fashionable. Like sometimes
If
they
they
put it
tie it
on.
is
and
it
then
still
they put a
fashionable?
hat
Though?
on.
I feel like that was
That was 90s. It was definitely
Yeah.
90s. I don't see it actually
Yeah, I
that
don't
often
see
I don't
now.
see it either.
Because a lot of guys wear locks.
Because that's when everybody was trying to get the waves. Then they had the
Yeah.
do-rags on. So, underneath that
And then they
do-rag
brush it
is
in
probably,
public,
yes,
trying to get the
yes.
wave
So that was,
Yeah, I think it's different. It's different. It's
Yeah.
just different. It looks different.
now, I don't want my son
Meaning like
wearing
it's
that.
different, like you feel differently about men wearing a do-rag in public than women wearing a bonnet in public.
Yes, because I
Okay.
do think
Okay.
more of the men wearing the bonnet in public was more of a fashion statement. While there were
Okay.
some
Oh,
who did
okay.
wear them at night to protect their hair,
Right.
I think for
Got
the
it.
most part it was a fashion
It was a
statement.
90s
was.
fashion. Okay.
Yeah,
got
it was. That's true. That's a very good point.
Misha
Why are
does
you
not
like
agree.
side-eyeing?
Most side I mean, your lashes
What is that
look
about?
good though, girl.
She's leaning into curiosity.
Oh, okay.
Because that's like,
we gotta give space for that.
that's different. Like,
What's different?
how can it be fashionable and okay for the guys
Because
It
that was
was
the
a
intended
fashion
purpose.
statement.
It was
So why
was
can't we
fashionable.
make bonnets?
They're not
'Cause they're not
fashionable.
cute.
They're
I
not
really
cute.
don't even
They're not cute.
And when you
Hand
see
wraps are though. Those are real cute.
But we are
don't think they're
saying
cute,
that
though.
do-rags are cute on men. Maybe men think bonnets are cute
They
on
don't.
women. We
They
don't
don't.
know.
They don't.
I don't think so.
Hey.
I've done the research. Out of hold on, let me pull it up.
She's gonna drop that link.
Speaking of which, great way to wrap this up. Let's all mention Black-owned things. So our cups are from Tabitha Brown,
Take a sip.
North Carolina, born and bred. This is my business. We each have our own business in these cups. We found these at Target during what's this Black History Month or no? Just her collection. This was her last collection. Amber, do you want to speak about the candle?
Oh, this candle is from Posh. Some look at the thing. Out of Charlotte. It's Black-owned candle business out of Charlotte. Posh Candles.
Posh Candle Co.
Yes.
Black Girl Magic.
And she has really cute scents, cutely named. That's Black Girl Magic. I got one. What is Do Nothing and Chill. I didn't bring that today because we're doing something, but you know.
I will also say my T-shirts that if you see me here on the podcast or in the community, I typically have a custom T-shirt that's by Black-owned business, woman business. My earbobs are Black-owned woman business. And so when Asharon talked about, or maybe Kelly mentioned something about dropping a link, if you want to know more about that, be sure to follow us at our Kijiji, OurKijiji.org. Or you can DM us on our Kijiji, at our Kijiji on Instagram, or Kijiji WS on Facebook to find more information. As we wrap this up, what are your final thoughts, ladies? What's one thing that's not complicated?
Listen, mine is basic, so I'm gonna go first. Stay hydrated. It's summertime. It's hot out there. Drink your water. It's a reminder to myself.
So your skin can glow.
Yes, I would say that we are all beautiful and that it's not complicated. So cheers to us.
Love that.
Cheers.
I'm going to let Misha go because I don't have mine yet.
I have a couple. One is that guns seem to still be an issue no matter what hue, particularly in this community. And it's not complicated what you're not finna do. What you're not finna do is not complicated.
Okay, so one thing that's not complicated, I like Asharon. She was like, drink water, but I won't take that. I will say I feel like this is not complicated, but maybe it actually is complicated, but take care of yourself. But I know we can unpack that and make it complicated. But let's just make it not complicated. Take care of yourself, whatever that might mean to you.
Well, with that, we did not rehearse this. That is something that this platform does not. I don't like scripted stuff because we do so many scripted things throughout the week. Sometimes we're forced based on our job to follow a script. I don't think any of you all are because y'all make the rules where you work. However, this platform, we just want to be free. We want to have conversation. We just want to be us. So taking care of yourself, while it can be complicated, I want to make sure that stays at the forefront of Black people's minds because suicide rates are continuing to increase for a number of reasons. But don't be afraid to ask for help. So as we close out, you can see us more. We'll follow us on IRKGG to find out when our next episodes will be airing. But in the meantime, be vigilant, be careful, and I pray you continue to be well. The only constant in life is change. In a perfect world, you'll be able to adjust accordingly. But in this world, I ask you to not be afraid to ask for help as you adjust. After all, this is our Kijiji, for us, by us, to help us be our best us. Until next time.